there have been 3 bank failures so far in 2023. Most recently, just occurred a few days ago, being First Republic Bank in the United States. Now, when I go into statistics, I want to give some background on the source of the data, because statistics are only as valid as the data source they come from. In the United States, there's the FDIC, which stands for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. The FDIC insures deposits up to $250,000 US. So amounts below that will be reimbursed from the FDIC if a bank goes bankrupt. Above that, there is no insurance, but at least from the FDIC, but below that, they are insured. The FDIC also keeps a list of bank failures, and it goes back to, several years. When making this video, I looked for an equivalent in Europe. What I found was there's the European Banking Association, European Banking Authority, the EBA, and it talked about having insurance up to the local equivalent of €100,000. Now again, there's not every country in the EU uses the euro and uses the zloty, and there are other kinds. I mean, there's some. I think Denmark uses the krone or the krona. I know some of the, like say, Scandinavian countries still use their own currency, but essentially it's the equivalent of €100,000 that will be reimbursed. But it said it was at the national level, so there's not really one central list of bank failures where people submitted bank failures or kept a list, but a Google Doc isn't great for completeness and accuracy of data. So anyway, if there's any anyone watching this video that lives in the EU that knows of a good source, you leave a comment in the comments. Have some data from Europe, outside the US. It's just I couldn't find a great, reliable source for it. So that's why this video will be US centric. Okay. Now, having given that explanation, let's go into the stats. Okay, as always, I will leave a link in the description to the data sources I used in compiling the statistics. So on this tab, this is the U.S. bank failure listing. And as you can see, the most recent entry was First Republic Bank as of May 1st of May 2023. Then you have Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank, that were in March of 2023, and then prior to that, you have to go all the way back to 2020 for Alameda State Bank in Kansas. So prior to this year, you had to been 2 years, 2021, 2022, there weren't any bank failures. Okay, so we're going to look at which states have the most bank failures. And again, this is correlation. I'm not saying these banks fail because they were in, the state they were in. It was just, again, correlation. I'm not saying this is causation. Okay, so bank failures by state. We're going to do bank failures by date. Are there certain months that have more bank failures than others? And then I'm going to look at, if you see this list, you see the acquiring institution. So for example, JP Morgan Chase acquired First Republic Bank. Blackstar Bank acquired, Signature Bank, First Citizens Bank and Trust Company acquired, Silicon Valley Bank. So we're going to look at what institutions have acquired the most failed banks. Now, if we go down to this list goes back to 2000. To see the earliest entry is the Bank of Honolulu. Alright, so let's go to the states. Okay, now, kind of explain what I have here. So this is the state, and these are state abbreviations. Now, in the listing from the FDIC, territories are included. Now, the United States, in addition to the 50 states, there's DC, which isn't a state. There's also Puerto Rico, Guam, islands in the Pacific. Now, the only territory that had an entry was Puerto Rico. So my guess is that no banks in Guam failed, or any of the other territories. So if you see enough more than 50 entries, it's because Puerto Rico is included. Okay, so, and then some statistics. So the average number of failures per state was 11. Standard deviation was 18.93. And the outlier threshold, and again I'm using 3 standard deviations to either side of the mean, was 68. Let's just round it up, 68, because you can't have a, 0.89 of a bank. Outliers, Florida, Georgia, and Illinois. Those are the only outliers. And there were some states that had 0 failures. But again, these are relatively small. I don't think any state that had a population above 2 million had 0 for failures. So column G is the number of bank failures. Column H is the population divided by 1,000. So, for instance, the state of Alabama had 5,098,000. Like I say, we're divided by 1,000 to normalize the data. And normalize just means make it readable. So, that gave it 0.13. If I hadn't normalized it if I had just done failures divided by population, it would have been 0.00013, which makes it harder to decipher. I is it's the number of bank failures per 1,000 people. Because to say, hey, there were more bank failures in, let's say Florida than there were in Wyoming. Well, Florida has a lot more people than Wyoming, so this is to try to the state. Now, so let's take a look at the graphs here. This is total bank failures by state. As you can see, Georgia leads the pack at 93 bank failures. Florida is second at 76. Then Illinois is at 69. Then California is at 43. And there's a couple, like say Alaska, Delaware, Maine, Montana, North Dakota, Rhode Island, and Vermont have 0 failures. Wyoming is the least populated state, and it had 1 bank failure. Hawaii, but so you can see the 3 outliers kind of stick out. And then let's say now when you go at bank failures per 100,000 people, see if it looks any different. Now scroll all the way and get 0.84. But then coming in second is Illinois. Minnesota also has a lot of bank failures per 100,000. Per 100,000 people. Minnesota, Kansas, and Nevada, kind of making kind of the second group up there. Okay, so let's go to bank failures by date. And what I was looking for here, so we have a grid, so it has the year, and then it has the month of the failure. So you can see there's a huge group, and again, this is the Great Recession of the financial crisis. As you can see, it jumped from 25. So it went from 3 in 2007 to 25 in 2008 to 51, 2012, 24, 2013, and 18. And then kind of died back down. It took several years for the financial crisis to kind of flush out all the bad banks. So, and if you see a difference here, so I started creating this listing when there were rumors of, so that's why I've added this to the data. You might see 566 in one list and 565 in the other. It's because I updated it to include First Republic. Okay. So we see the increase here in the years, and that corresponds to the financial crisis. But then we look at there's kind of a surge the month after the quarter end. So for example, calendar years, January, February, March, April, May, June. See April, there's an uptick. July, there's an uptick. In October, there's an uptick. And then January, there's an uptick. So our financials quarterly. So if the numbers come in a month after the quarter ends, is that a factor in it going into receivership? It's one worth noting. Okay. So here you see the bank failures by year. As you can see, there's a small number, then a huge uptick around the financial crisis, and then looks like you had a couple of zeros, and then I guess this would be the interest rate surge. Maybe that was an issue. And then if you look at it by the month, again, you see the month after the quarter end. So into Q4 is December, and the next month in January there's an uptick. Q1 ends in March, uptick in April. Q2 ends in June, uptick in July. Q3 ends in September, uptick in October. So that's interesting. Now we look at the number of failure acquisitions. So institutions acquire the most failed banks. So 31 out of 566 bank failures did not have any acquirers. So 5.5%, no one acquired them. Bank and Trust Company, they acquired 12 failed banks since 2000. Next was First Citizens Bank and Trust Company at 11, Ameris Bank at 10. Then you get into U.S. Bank N.A. at 9, Community and Southern Bank at 8, Bank of the Ozarks at 7. For this video, this is a stat